folks. My name is Cowboy Wrangler Caid, and today I'm here to teach you about pollution in water sources, streams, and just water in general. Now, let's get started. Hey, welcome back! Now, let's dive in to our little video. Please don't make me dive into the stream, literally. Okay, now, I'm going to ask you to ask your parents, to ask Google, to ask Siri, to ask the encyclopedia this question that I've been asking myself since I was 2. How do streams become polluted? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, now, if you ask me, I'm say that the main cause of pollution is dirt. Yes, you heard me right, dirt. If dirt gets, well, caught up in the current and blown away, it gets pretty mucky in there, which makes it hard for fish and other animals that need to take in that water to survive to live, which would not be good for the streams. So, for example, if a bunch of sediment that had chemicals in it got washed up right here, it would get carried down this river and all the way into the lake, which would mean almost all of this underwater habitat from here would get polluted with dirt. Well, now that I think about it, I just want to give you a quick bit of trivia that would probably change your minds about why pollution is bad. See, you'd think that it would affect every animal in its own way, and it can, but also it can affect one animal and disrupt the entire food web or food chain of that ecosystem. For instance, if fish start to die off because of all that nasty sediment in the water, then the crawdads, which have a main course of yum fish, well, they'd start to die off too. And birds, which usually eat crawdads, they wouldn't do so well either. And then so on and so on. You might also be wondering, what about the dirt around the stream? Well, erosion could take care of that. Splash it right into the streams. I mean, erosion. I don't like erosion. I like erosion, but erosion is kind of mean. Also, cows and horses, like them, can also pollute if they have direct access to water. If they have direct access to water sources, they can tromp right through and turn up the sediment. I mean, like, if there were horses on this farm and they had direct access to this stream here, then they could walk right into the stream and turn up all the sediment, which would, as I said, get carried down. And they could also do their business in the water, which isn't necessarily good to drink. So, pretty much, they would poop right here, and their poop would start to get worn away, and all the poop particles would travel down there. And no, I'm not going to laugh because I'm saying poop so much. And if they do their pee, well, the pee will go wee right down the river. That would make it so that I wouldn't necessarily want to go whitewater rafting in it or take a nice little dip in it. So all that cow poop and stuff, it'll get mixed up. And if it's like something like up here, it can get turned up here, go right into the poor little innocent lake. Poor lake. But that sediment could potentially settle in the lake, which could potentially filter all this out. But if it's like this, the current could also potentially carry the sediment straight through. And potentially, the current could keep the sediment up in this lake and, well, it wouldn't settle down. Also, the sneaky ninja cows can break down the banks of the river. No one would even notice, but all that sediment that they break down could get washed in and go, yay, we roller coaster ride all the way down to the lake, through the river and polluting it. For example, this ditch here used to be like about 3 feet deep, but after the horses stepping on it all the time and crushing in the banks, well, now look at the watermark. It's only about this deep. That's like 2 or 3 inches. This is another example. This ditch, again, used to be about 2 or 3 feet deep. But after the horses coming through here and walking on this, it has compacted stuff and made the sediment wash down, which builds up over time. And speaking of sediment, look at the color of this water. That is what the water looks like whenever the sediment gets washed up. Now, let's test exactly how deep this stream is now that it's been trampled. That's about not even an inch deep where I put the stick. And that used to be 3 feet. That just shows you how much a bunch of horses like this, trampling all over it, can erode the banks. Wanted for eroding rivers' banks. Tell us if you see any suspicious characters that look anything like this. Now, quick fun fact, farming is the #1 cause of pollutants for streams. You know why? Because nutrients isn't always good. If nutrients from farming washes into streams, like stuff to help the plants grow, it'll start off right here and then wash in to the streams right here. Which kind of means that water treats farming good, but farming doesn't seem to treat water so nicely. Now, too much nitrogen can also pollute. If there's too much nitrogen in water, it'll turn it green, just like this water and this water on the edges. And it's not too bad until it starts to die off. When it finally starts to die off, yay, no more lichens and stuff like that growing on the water. It sucks out all the oxygen, making it so the animals have a hard time breathing. And it's not really a yay anymore. Turns out that dying plants aren't good for the ecosystem. Insert duh here. Okay, so you might be wondering how all these chemicals get into streams. Well, I'll tell you how. So, one source of water that farmers up in the not so populated regions, like down here in Stevensville, like to use for watering their crops is irrigation. They will dig ditches along their property. So maybe a ditch would be right here and it would water this entire field. But when that water flows back in to the ditch, it'll go into the ditch and then the ditch will either flow into a stream, which washes all the chemicals into the lakes and all the other rivers, or the irrigation ditches will hook up to sewers, which almost all sewers, unless they vaporize the water somehow, end up draining into rivers and streams. Now, we're kind of just going to go back to something that we discussed earlier. But, well, now let's talk about something that is a 10-year-old boy's favorite subject. Unless it's me, I hate it. Poop! Poop can carry pathogens, and it almost always does carry pathogens. So, the pathogens can come from human waste, raw animal and pet waste, and pretty much from anything that poops. These pathogens can roll down from where they were set into bodies of water or get pooped directly into the water. And again, I'm not going to laugh at the word poop. So one thing that can cause erosion is clear-cutting forests. If someone or a company is always swinging axes and chainsaws and clearing forests out, well, these trees, if they get uprooted, those trees' roots are keeping stuff in place, like a bunch of dirt, and if that dirt, for instance, just maybe finds its way into a random stream, well, it will wash down side of whatever it's on or across land right into the rivers. And also, it wouldn't really matter if just one person is constantly chopping down a tree, because one tree can supply one person for a while. So if it's just one person, it doesn't really matter. That's why I have this axe.